the underside, and we've got another brilliant guest tonight. He's ex-Aberdeen Dunfermline player, and he's the current Clyde manager. It's Darren Young, mate. How you doing, pal?
Hey, all good. Thanks for having me.
No, mate, it's your pleasure for you coming on. I know you're a really busy man at the moment. Obviously, you've just finished pre-season. You've got a big game tomorrow in the League Cup against Motherwell. So, really do appreciate your time coming on, Darren. Thank you, mate.
No, not at all. Good to get a wee break for all
that. Well, you're going to be sitting talking about football for the next 12 minutes, so I don't know if you'll get us a break. But on this channel, mate, we like to go back to the very start when you're a youngster, kicking a ball about in canvas lang and that. When did you realise that you wanted to, play football more often and, become a professional in the end?
I think it's just since you were probably 4 or 5. I remember like the first boys' club was Clyde United, and it was like 4 or 5 year old, me and my brother. So, and again, back then you were playing in full size pitches, 22 wee kids all on the bit chasing a ball, and that was it. Just kick it high, and then they go like, could they get it? That was the thing. But probably since then, you've always just kind of wanted to play football, and then just as the years go on, you kind of realise you're kind of a bit better than other players, and then gradually move up, and then you get moved into different teams, and then you start to get scouted, and then that's where kind of like Premier League teams and stuff like that kind of starts to happen. Scouts turn up at the games and ask you to go and train and stuff, and then you're then up against the kind of best of the best. So it's just a kind of a progression thing, really, just year after year.
Who were your early footballing heroes, and did any of them influence the way you played the game?
No, I just kind of watched all football, but there was just obviously as you get older, you're kind of like, I look like I'm going to be playing centre mid most of the time, so you were just kind of looking at the guys that kind of played your position, and even there, like guys when you're kind of growing up, obviously like lucky enough when I played Rangers, we played against Gaza, so you've got Gascoigne playing against guys like that, and just a guy who's played in the semi-final of the World Cup, and next minute you've just left school 6 months earlier, and now you're up playing against Gaza. It's at Ibrox, so things like that. It's just you're like, wow, just one of these things that it just kind of happens. But no, I think as the more you get on, there was guys like Gerrard and Lampard, and probably guys at the same age as you, but you're just kind of looking at what they did, and as they're all coming through at the same time, and how good players they were.
See, obviously you mentioned you played for Cathkin and stuff before you went to Aberdeen, and that was there any kind of coaches or mentors along the way that you can remember that have had an influence on you?
Yeah, I think the kind of main coaches like the big boy Josh McLaughlin. His two boys had played as well, and Josh was brilliant. And then for Clyde United, we kind of moved to Mill United, and there was a guy called Willie McGrotty. Probably quite a few people that kind of played with Mill United would have remembered him. But no, Willie was great as well. He came and poached me, which is weird to remember. Which would never be allowed nowadays. We were at school playing in the school playground, and this guy comes up and starts talking to you, which honestly happened, and then obviously he spoke away, and he came to my house and that, spoke to my dad and that, and then at the time Mill United were the kind of best team at that age level. I think it was under 12s or 13s. They'd been winning the league and winning the Scottish Cup and stuff, so kind of I'd moved to kind of there. At the same point, me and my brother, we kind of went to them, because the two of us were running the same team. So I was a year and a half older than him, so he was Clyde United on the same team. He kind of played a level above himself, and then he kind of dropped down, and then we went to Mill United. He kind of went to his own level. I stayed at my level, but no, it was great. And to be fair, part of that journey as well, like the whole way through, from boys' club to school teams to the youth team, the reserves, and all that kind of stuff, all the way through. And Derek's kind of been there till we then got to Aberdeen as well, into the first team, and then we kind of both moved to Dunfermline, and then kind of playing in the Scottish Cup final together. So it was brilliant to be able to go and do that. There's not many guys can kind of say they've kind of done that with their brother all that way through and all that time.
Definitely. And see that guy coming up to you in the playground, was that just, did they see you playing football in the school, or did they already know about you or what?
Yeah, I think he already kind of knew about me just because I've been doing well for Clyde United, and then obviously because I think we played against him in a game, and then he just kind of random. I think he was a gas man or something at the time, so he might have been checking the meters, but he came up and he just kind of spoke to us anyway. But no, he was a bit of a character. He was a good guy, and he instilled a good discipline in you, and a good kind of no lose attitude type of thing. So it was already kind of there, but just I don't know, just that wee bit of letting you know what it needs to you need to do to kind of make it to the top.
Tell us a wee bit about your family, mate. Obviously, growing up in Cambuslang and that, and then the two of you becoming footballers. Was that something that was kind of drummed into you from a young age to go and play football, express yourself, and were you practicing from a young age with your family and that?
No, not really. It's just one of those things. I think it helped. I think obviously it's completely different nowadays because you would just we'd like 3 or 4 different areas. I mean, you'd at the back you had the garages, at the front you had the big grass bit, and then you had the wee play park, and again you had the garages, and then up the park there's a park just about maybe 200-300 metres at the very very top of the estate, and it was called the Koozie. The pitch was like a cow field, but again it was just you could go any day and just go and play, and you would meet your friends, and it would boys for school, boys for the scheme, or whatever you want to call it, and you just go and play. And I think that the big thing that kind of helped me and my brother was the fact the two of you, so we're always there where you're playing long shooty or things that you do now in training that you did back there automatically with a coach telling you were like you're trying to kill it in the top corner, or you're, for instance, everywhere there was a no ball game sign, try and hit the no ball game sign for 10 yards away, 20 yards away, 30 yards, and it's just things that you're doing that for fun, but you're maybe getting taught that or coached that nowadays, whereas then it was you're just trying things off the cuff. So it was just every minute you would go to school, come back at lunch and play, or if you were when you went into like in a high school, you'd then be playing in the playground, and then you come back from school, you're playing again, and in the usual when it starts to get dark, you would start to head in, or when your mum was shouting at you to get your dinner. So that was about the only time you get a break. And when we were younger, it was I always remember we trained with Aberdeen. It was a Monday at Strathclyde Park, and then a Tuesday was over at Ibrox in the Astro just outside Ibrox. A Wednesday for a wee while we were at Hearts. Thursday was your boys club. Friday you had off, and then Saturday morning you played with the school team. 9:30 kick-off, 9 o'clock, and then you'd come home, get a fry up, and then you'd be out playing with your boys club in the afternoon. And that was like just for since you're 5-year-old. Like obviously in your different schools and or whatever, but that was it the whole kind of way through, and it was just the norm. And I know they talk now is it they try to get like 10,000 minutes or something, whatever it may be. But back then it was just it's just something you wanted to do. There wasn't the distraction of the computer games and all these kind of things. And the pitches as well, your red ash, black ash. And if it was an Astro was like one of the kind of flat hockey pitches. That's what the Astro was back then. But it was if you got a grass pitch, then it was like you're maybe playing in a semi-final or you're in a final, and you had nets as well, which was a bonus. So nowadays they get it. They say they get it handed to them on a plate, and they don't kind of realise how hard you kind of worked. And maybe it was harder as well back then because you're working on your touch because the bounce of the ball and all these kind of things. Whereas now everything's nice and flat and even and. If you're kind of training or playing in Astros and stuff, so but no, I wouldn't have changed it for a thing. I loved it, and even now you're thinking back, it's great memories of just going and enjoying yourself and playing.
Aye, when I was a youngster, I grew up in Ibrox, mate. So I played in that Ibrox complex a few times. There wasn't any knee slides or anything on in there. That's for sure.
I know,
Definitely, man.
I'm just shocked that a fry-up is the heart of the making of professional football.
Aye, back in the
Saturday
day,
morning trips, get the link sausages on the go, here we go.
I'm going to be allowing these players to lose that now, but
Aye,
I know.
no.
That was just the norm, to be honest. Because again, you never had any. There was nobody coming and telling you like sports science stuff or eat this or eat that. That was it. To be fair, the first team guys or the boys in the first team, they're probably having a few pints before a game. So quiet wasn't too bad.
But like you said, you ended up in Aberdeen at the age of 10. What was that experience like, and also breaking into the first team at a very young age?
When we went to Aberdeen, the two again, it was 10 and 11, and what Aberdeen used to do, you would be training on the Monday night, and then every it was like 3 times a year, so it would be like the Easter break, the summer break, and then the October break, and you'd got to Aberdeen and you'd stay in Great Western Road, and it'd be like a minibus, and it'd probably be about 10 or 12 boys from kind of Glasgow, Dundee area, and then obviously the Aberdeen boys kind of joined us as well. We kind of trained with them, so you did that for the full week, and that was amazing because the first team changing room, the reserve changing room, and we would basically be kind of shuffled in with the reserves in that kind of bigger changing room, and then on the way through, and you would go through our changing room to get to the gym, and you go through our changing room, there's a big snooker table, so all the first team players are coming through, and you're just kind of like awestruck in a way. You're like, wow. And then a couple of the times when you're up there for the week, you'd be staying in the kind of digs as such, 2 or 3 guys to the digs, and again it was when we came through Aberdeen at the time, there was so many guys. There was like myself, my brother, Michael Hart, Big Brian Essen, who was up there local. There was Dan Mackey, there was Chris Clark, Russell Duncan, Russell Anderson. There's a few more. Big boy Ian Good it kind of came as well. So we were all there at the same time, and we all kind of came through like generally around about the same time as well. And we had a kind of a really good team. But that was one of the things for me, that going up there and seeing that and being so close. Because after we were staying, we went out to train. You were actually in the pitch again next to the first team and next to the reserve. So again, it was just kind of like, obviously there wasn't a training centre, it was Seaton Park, and you're just sitting there. You're not sitting, but a couple of times you're training away and you're just kind of looking over. There's Jim Bett or McLeish or whoever it may be, and it was just kind of one of those things like, wow, they're that close to you, and you're used to watching these guys on the TV, and I think it just gives you that wee bit more. I want to be that guy, and I want to kind of get to that level. Then it get to the point when you're kind of 14, 15, and you get to make a decision of signing an S form, it was called back then. So that was like kind of 2 year when you were kind of 14 to 16. And again, the opportunity was there to kind of sign for 2 or 3 different teams, but we chose Aberdeen because we just felt at that time you had like Ian Jess, Scott Booth, Stephen Wright, all these guys are kind of playing in the youth and have came through for the youth and they're playing in the first team. So just felt that at the time, your Rangers and your Celtics and that were spending mega money. So again, the opportunity was there to go to Rangers, but we just felt that both of us would be a better opportunity to get through to the first team a lot quicker rather than Rangers and that, spending maybe 7, 8, 10 million players, and it worked out quite the thing.
The thing is, that is a very mature decision to be made at such a young age, though. I mean, most kids would probably be like, you know what, I'm going to Celtic, I'm going to Rangers or whatever else you were offered.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But to actually think about the future like that that's pretty impressive, man.
It was my dad, he had a season ticket for Ibrox, but he was totally fine. He was like, look, just do whatever you want, never ever pressurised us or anything like that. Mum and Dad were brilliant. To be fair, I mean, they were amazing because, again, going away back to obviously when we were young, my mum and my gran would always take one ace to football because we split in a different team at the time. Then my dad and my granda would take the other one, so we were like, one of them would go with Derek one week, the other one would go with me the next week, and it was just kind of swap around. Sometimes we're playing at the same pitches and stuff, but it was great that way. And again, you don't really know now until you're a dad or a parent, you kind of realise because she would go and she'd go to her work, have us get the dinner, and then basically jump out 3-4 times a week. She'd be sitting in a car with her magazine or sitting talking to the other parents, and they're just kind of sitting there for that hour and a half waiting for us to finish training to jump back in the car. And they maybe never really had a social life as much, but again, you don't appreciate it until you're kind of older and you're in that position yourself. And then even like summer holidays and things, I know I'm going off a wee bit here, but even like summer holidays, it was all the holidays leading up to before you kind of went full time was a football holiday. So it was like Daddy's got a tournament in Wales, I've got a tournament to playing in the Milk Cup or whatever, and it's just that you're going to Spain, you're going to Germany, you're going to Holland, Northern Ireland, whatever it may be. And our kind of holidays as such was always a football holiday because one of us was playing a tournament for a week, and then obviously the mums and dads would go and get pissed that night, and then next day, and all the kids are running about playing. So it was great.
Your life just was absorbed with football at that point, but obviously quite a lot is made, Darren, about like how things have changed in football a wee bit now. Obviously you're yourself been a manager for a number of years now, and that you get to work with a lot of young players and that. You know, back in the day, I think kids probably weren't treated the best, mate. I don't know what your experience was like. Did you have any, obviously cleaning the boot's not at a standard, but I think a lot of guys we've had on have said that it was maybe a wee bit too much at times with the kind of older guys and that. Did you have any kind of experiences with that?
Nah, it was, again, I wouldn't have said it was too much. I say it's obviously with a full-time environment now, you can't do anything, but I think it was a good grounding. You'd all had to do your jobs, whether it's the picking up the kit, cleaning the kit, helping out with cleaning the kit, cleaning the floors once all the first team's away. Again, you get the odd sock fired off the back of your head or whatever it may be, but there was never anything that you'd have said, "Oh, somebody's going over the score here." It was good. It was a good grounding and a good kind of learning, to be honest. Nowadays, it's again coming across some of the young ones in that for certain teams. You're like, wow. They've not got a clue. They are miles away from it, as in the real world and the reality of being mollycoddled, the clubs that they're at and the facilities they've got and everything they have. And then all of a sudden they're out in the big bad world and they can't handle it, to be honest. There's quite a few that I've found kind of like that. And then there's other ones who have got the right attitude and they still want to do well and they'll be doing their best and they don't have an ego as such. So it is the difference now. I mean, I don't know why they're not allowed to go and clean boots and stuff like that. For us, when we were doing all these things, you'd had the squad of 15, 16, whatever it is, youth team boys, and you couldn't get away until everyone's done it. And I thought it was good for team spirit and team morale, because you're sitting there saying you're desperate to get away, maybe 2 o'clock or whatever it is, but so-and-so's no finished. So what you found out was, right, I'm away to help, Derek's away to help me, or whatever it is, I still need to get this done, or I still need to get that done. So everybody would muck in, and it was a good team spirit. The fact that disciplined, like you had to, right, if you don't get this done, right, we're not getting away. And people might think that's stupid, but there's too many guys that are like just look after themselves, and it's like, no, I've done my wee bit and I'm away. Because obviously there's easier jobs, even daft things that sometimes you might have to be on the stand or whatever, cleaning things out after a game, and it was maybe a midweek game or something, so you're maybe up there helping. So it's just things that, again, it's just a bit of hard work, really. You've got a kind of easy life of it. And the reality is, it's some of the boys, I don't know, maybe they when they're at these bigger clubs, they take it for granted nowadays.
Do you think that should be something that's brought in more often nowadays in the modern game then? Aye.
I don't think it's going to harm them. It's
Nah.
the other side of it is, I know there's a sports science thing. I know there's quite a big thing with that nowadays, and they can only play so many minutes, and they can only do this, and they can only do that. Which, fair enough. And I don't know, obviously, at the higher levels, if it is a case of they need to be, you have to have a certain, if there's a regulated number of minutes you need to have, whether it's training or coaching or whatever it may be, for their body and stuff. But it's, I don't know. I just feel that it's. I suppose on the other side, if they're not doing these jobs, but they're working on, maybe they're going to the gym or maybe they're doing prehab stuff or stuff like that, then fair enough. I can understand saying, right, you're not wanting them cleaning out the bus and emptying the bus and mopping the bus when you could be going in and doing this kind of strength and conditioning program type of thing. So for that side of things, then yeah, if they're utilising the time to kind of go and improve themselves, I don't think it's that bad.
Before we go into your debut and stuff, I wanted to ask you, obviously, were you growing up in the Aberdeen youths and that, obviously your brother being a year younger than you, I think it would be a wee bit of a different experience for you for the rest of the other guys, because you're not obviously just concentrating yourself, you're wanting your brother to do well. So did you feel that a wee bit more kind of, no pressure, but like you had to look after him and hope that he done well and encourage him and stuff like that?
Yeah, but I think because I knew all the boys as well, I think not just him, but there is obviously that wee bit on the park. If somebody goes and has a wee dig at him, you're like, oh. But I think I was a kind of, the other thing as well, I've been the kind of captain from like my boys' club and the school teams and the youth teams and my Glasgow team and all this kind of stuff all the way through. So I felt it, I don't know, it just seemed like a natural thing for me to be kind of looking out for the players anyway. So I would always be kind of that way, that if somebody was in the other team doing this or doing that, then I would always, whether it's my brother or whoever, then I would always be kind of looking out for them and wanting to kind of make sure, right, he's kind of smashed one of our players, right, let's make sure he gets a wee slap type of thing. So, but not a hard man way, just in a kind of, that was it. If you would be kind of looking after your teammates, but no, it was one of those things. You're always obviously wanting them to kind of do well, and it was, I think, I could help him. It was one of those ones. It was easy for him to come and speak to me about certain things and stuff like that. But no, it was. I think it's just because we all grew up together. See, like going in that for 10-year-old, going on the bus journey up to Aberdeen, staying in the digs together, and then training together, and then you're in the youth team, and then you're in the reserves together, and then you're all in the first team. So that's saying, going back, there's like that group of 7-8 players that you were like, God, we were really close and all got on well.
Aye. So you did make your debut, mate, in August 1996 against Hearts. only 17-year-old, mate. That must have been a dream come true that day. Do you remember getting the nod that you were starting that day?
I asked that before, but I couldn't remember if they pulled me before it or if it was just the day of the game. I'm pretty sure it was the day of the game because it was Roy Aitken was the manager at the time, and they'd I think in the midweek, I think we'd maybe played Queen's Park or something in the midweek, and the game on the Saturday, I think there was a few injuries, and again, I remember we beat Hearts 4-0, and I nearly scored. I had a shot. It was hit off Billy Dodgy's arse and went wide, but so there's no chance of getting hitting him. But no, I remember the time, and obviously I think it was too late to phone my mum and dad because sometimes my mum and dad would come after I'd kind of got into the first team, they'd be coming to the game, so they would just kind of travel up, and again they got on really well with Stevie Glass's mum and dad at the time, so at times they would maybe stay with them on a Friday night, and then they stayed in Dundee, and then they would come up to the game, or sometimes they would do the opposite, they'd come up to the game and then go back to Dundee and stay with them and stuff, so they had a really good relationship and stuff as well. But no, I remember it, and it was just amazing. I don't think I was too nervous. I think it was just again a natural progression for being confident enough that I was kind of good enough, and then obviously with injuries, you're like, right, I've got a wee chance here today, hoping that you get picked, and then you get kind of picked, and then to be fair, I mean, to go and win 4-0 and your debut, you're 17, blah blah blah. It was amazing. So it was a great experience to kind of go and do all that.
Who was it that made the debut first? Was it you or was it Derek?
Yeah, it was me. I was up.
So a wee one up for you.
Well, I was always kind of a year and a half ahead of Derek. So I went up the season before him. So I was the boys, and then luckily my second season I'd managed to get into the first team, and that was him just kind of coming into full time. So
you mentioned Roy Aitken there. What was he like to work under?
I thought he was great. I mean, obviously he brought me in. It was Roy Aitken and Tommy Craig was his assistant. So I thought it was brilliant. And again, just the enthusiasm, the kind of hard work ethic, and making sure you kind of get stuck in, you don't kind of leave it on the park and all that kind of stuff. Probably a bit more old school, but no, I mean, I really enjoyed it, and again, I thought the training that was good as well. So you're a young boy, you're kind of looking up to the experienced players and stuff as well. So.
It wasn't long after, mate, that you did get a wee run the team, but then you get a bad injury. How did you cope mentally with that?
It wasn't easy, to be fair, because it was that same kind of season when I was 17, I'd managed to go and play in Europe, and then I managed to scored against Barrytown, get called up for Scotland 21s. So that first season, kind of everything happened. You're going for like literally the year before you're at school, and then you're now full time, and a kind of year on for finishing high school. You're then playing in Europe and playing with Scotland 21s and playing in the first team, etc., UEFA Cup and stuff. So it was amazing. And then just kind of a year or so, kind of after that, then I'd get a problem with my knee, and then again it took ages to come back. It wasn't kind of anything. It wasn't like a cruciate or anything like that. I can't even remember what it was, but I got the first stop, and then it just kept on feeling a niggle, and every time it felt like I was okay to come back, I would just kind of feel this kind of shooting pain. So I then had to get a couple of clean-up operations off it. But there was one point where you're sitting in the bus, and I remember at one time coming back in the bus, and I was just sitting, and I was like up the back of the bus myself, and I was like in tears, just myself, just like that. I am fucked here, like I'm whatever it was, 19, 20 or whatever, and you're like, I've only been playing full time, I can't get back over this, and there is that wee bit, you're kind of feeling sorry for yourself, and what am I going to do? Like, am I finished? Can I not get back for this? Because it obviously took for the third op to finally kind of get back, and then after that it seemed to kind of clear up and go away, and then I was kind of back to myself. So there is moments, and it's I mean, I don't think people, unless you're in that position, because you sacrifice a lot, you give up a lot to get to where you are and what you're doing and stuff, and it's a lot of people think, oh, football's life, or it's easy enough. It's not really. You can't go and do whatever you want. I know a lot of people would change that position to be in that position and want to be that, but they then realise you do kind of give up a lot to do it, and then you've kind of gone from playing kick the ball to all of a sudden, bang, it's could be finished here, and it's a year down the line, and you still can't seem to get back to it. So it does. It's hard to kind of take, and it's the usual. The physio's there for you, your friends are there for you, your family, your teammates, your brother who's your teammate as well. But still, you kind of get in that pitch. Every day you're going in there into the gym, and the boys are coming in and they'll do a wee bit, and then the boys are away training, and then they come back in again, and you're in the gym again, and you're kind of missing out and all that. So it wasn't easy, but you just need to set yourself targets, and that's kind of what I kind of did myself. Just you kind of set yourself a target, right? Get back to jogging, walking, whatever it may be, and then it's running, and it's twisting, turning, then it's a higher tempo, sprinting, etc. And then you keep on doing that until you get to the point where you can't as such. So it's or if it breaks down, or you're able to go to that next kind of level, then you can then start joining in again.
But you did overcome the injuries, like you said, and you ended up becoming the captain of Aberdeen in your early 20s. How did you handle the pressure of leading such one of the biggest clubs in Scotland in Aberdeen?
At the time, it just felt like I was saying earlier on, it's like a kind of natural progression. But at the same time, there was times when you look back now and you can openly admit that you struggled, because I was only 21 at the time, and it was Ebby Scovdale made me the captain. And it's just, again, you just try and lead by example as such, or again, it wasn't really much a shouter or a ball. I'd be always encouraging the guys, but it would be more of just kind of how you play and how you hand yourself kind of on and off the park. And there was times when it wasn't great, and then you just kind of feel it's like, because again we had a young squad, and I remember having the young squad. There was like the Scottish guys, the older Scottish guys with Derek White and Robbie Winters. I mean, that was the two kind of older guys. Then there was 2 Moroccans, then there was 3 Norwegians, and it was kind of like yourself. And at that time, Derek White had kind of moved away, so that's how I then became the captain. So again, you get a whole lot of young boys in the team, and it's, I don't know, there's times when I'm struggling, and it's like, who do I look to, and who kind of helps me? Because I'm seeing as I'm the captain, I'm expected to just kind of deal with this, and your form starts to dip, and your things that you're trying that come off natural doesn't happen. So you're in a wee bit of a position of, fuck, did I get through this type of thing? But again, you just keep playing away, and I know people will say, "Oh, you work hard," and that, and you do work hard, but if your confidence is kind of done in a wee bit, it can take anything to change it. A goal, a good performance, or whatever it may be. But then if the team's not doing well and the team's at the wrong end of the table, and next minute you've got 16,000 fans getting into you. And to be fair, the other side of it as well, you didn't have social media then. So I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, because I know nowadays if you have a stinker, I know a lot of the boys are straight on their phone, and it's, what's what social media saying? And again, I don't think that can be helping the guys nowadays. And I think it probably lends to a lot of guys having egos and that, because they have done well and they've played well, and they're brilliant, so and so saying this about me, and so saying that. We never had anything. You'd have the papers on a Saturday, or a Sunday morning, and you'd be looking to see what you got. Oh, I got a 5 or I got a 6 or whatever it is, and that was your kind of your rating. But I think personally, deep down if you'd played well or you hadn't played well, and things like that. So kind of coping with that side of things as well. There's a lot of different bits and bobs that all kind of add up into kind of being a kind of full-time player.
You had a number of different managers at Aberdeen. Who would you say was you get the best out of you when your time there, would you say?
Good question. Maybe the Scovdale would come in, and again, sometimes his training was a bit mental, just some of his ideas. But the way back then, he was the kind of one of the first managers for me anyway that was kind of bringing in a 4-3-3 or a 4-2-3-1, and we just couldn't really take to it at all, and he kept on having to go back to a 4-4-2. And again, we went 4-4-2, we actually started to pick up and do well. And I think it was just down to the fact that we knew what we were doing positionally and stuff. But again, he was bringing that in 20 years ago, when it's obviously the norm now, and he was probably ahead of his time. So it was fair play there, but obviously could he just maybe adapt it. But no, I think one of the kind of best seasons was when he was kind of make me captain. We finished 3rd, 4th in the league, and go back into Europe and stuff. So probably Scovdale, and again probably Roy Aitken and that, when I was kind of making my debut. So but no, all managers from my side of things that I've kind of played with, worked under, there's things that I'll look to maybe adapt and put into my kind of training as well. Drills that I'm like, oh god, that was back then, but maybe tweak it because to make it work with the numbers, or a slightly different adaptation for the day.
You mentioned the Moroccan a minute ago. There was one of them, Zero Ali. Did you play with him?
Yeah, played with Hisham, and again he was a great wee guy. And again, obviously, sadly, kind of passed away in a car crash. But So
He was some player, man.
yeah, I mean, he was brilliant. He came in, he was quite a lazy wee guy when he came in, but then he started working harder as the kind of the weeks and the months went on, and some of the goals and that, you just gave him the ball, and he was brilliant, and he was that way. I remember him, he was Muslim and stuff, and I don't drink and I don't smoke and all this kind of stuff, and then see by the time he left, he was out there with the boys. He was a great player, and again, he was sad how kind of things went for him. But great guy, and again, I'm pretty sure he'd quite a few caps in Morocco and that as well. But no, he's a wee bit of a character.
Yeah, it was a total shame what happened to that boy. I mean, obviously, the car crash in Morocco, he passed away. But like when he was here, I always remember he played. There was a game against Dundee at Dens Park, and he was unplayable, man. I don't know if is that a game that sticks out in your mind. He scored a couple of goals that day.
I think it was 4-2 or something like that, or 4-1. I'm sure he scored a hat trick. And I don't know if it's the same game, but there was a big puddle behind the goals. And then he just puddle and he starts splashing in the puddle and all the boys were over. But that was he was a great guy, and it's just sometimes life's cruel and you never know what's round the corner.
Definitely so. Looking back now in your Aberdeen career, what would you say was the most proudest moment while you were playing?
I think there's a few. I mean, I think just obviously making your debut when you're 17, scoring in Europe when you're 17 in the UEFA Cup, which is now the Europa League. I think obviously getting made captain as well. I mean, I think at the time you don't realise how big a deal it is, and it's not till you're kind of away and later on in life you think, God, that was a decent achievement to obviously be given the armband and kind of be made captain of such a big club in Scotland. So it was things like that. It was kind of brilliant. And I was at the time, I think it was Alex Miller was in, and it was Paul Hegarty at the time, and Scotland were at the World Cup with kind of France '98. And again, I'd been playing with Scotland 21s, and managing to kind of get called up to go there as a kind of boot boy as such, or kind of help out with the kit and stuff. So there was four of us. There was me, Mark Burchell, Paul Gallagher, and Kieran McInnesby, and the four all get kind of taken away to basically France '98. And that was, I mean, we went there obviously as kitmen, young boys that played with the 21s, but at the same time, we did every single thing. It actually felt like you were part of we were part of the squad, but it felt like because we trained and we did everything. So the difference between us and the players we were kind of up earlier to get the kit and everything sorted. Anybody needed anything, have a breakfast with them. You go to training, you're training with them. If you're needed, you're in the shaping, they're talking through, they're playing against Brazil in the first game. You're maybe Cafu or that, right? You're going to you be this player, you be that player, right? This is what we want you to do. And just kind of everything was, you just took part. And then I remember as well, they were doing video analysis stuff as well. And then it was, again at night, you're in there again. So every single thing the first team did, we did. And it was one of those experiences that never good enough to go and play for Scotland or get to a championship or anything like that. But to be there was just kind of something else that will kind of live with you.
I did know about that. I've seen a couple of things on that, mate. I remember thinking, that is some experience for you young guys to go over there. And obviously, amongst the Scotland team, guys like Colin Hendry and Paul Lambert and all that, man, do you reckon that kind of just spurred you on to keep progressing and just seeing these guys, the professionalism and that?
Yeah, no, 100%. And again, there was always the guys like John Collins as well. They were really good. The kind of older guys talking away and encouraging you and helping you and just giving you wee kind of hints and tips that they've maybe seen just in trainings. Keep doing this, or when this happens, do this, do that. So it was great for that. And then quite a few of them would always stay behind. So we would be staying behind as well. And whether it's practicing the shooting or whether it's passing, set pieces, whatever it may be. So we would help out with kind of all that side of things as well. But no, it's some experience. Excuse me, to be there and to have witnessed it. Maybe the first game against obviously Brazil, when we get the penalty and it's back to one each and stuff. Collins has scored the penalty, and you think, we're going to do this here, and then obviously the OG with Tom Boyd and Jim bouncing off each other, and then them getting the winning goal. But no, it was some experience to be there.
Corey, this is old guy fit what we're talking about now, man. You probably don't even know what we're talking about here, do you?
No, because I can't remember 98. I was too young. The first World Cup I remember is 2002.
What year were you born again?
93, but I look like I was born in 73 with my hairline.
A little older than me.
Right, catches after. I was going to just talk about that Aberdeen team that you came up with. Do you think it ever fulfilled its potential? Because you've listed off a few players there like Darren Mackey and Russell Anderson stuff. I do think that he's maybe missed out maybe just a cup or something just to give you that.
Yeah, 100%.
Aye.
It was because again you're looking through the team, you'd have nearly had a full team of players because you'd Ryan Essen who played as well in goals. You had Ryan at times, you had Michael Hart right back, you had Phil Maguire, you had Russell Anderson, and then Young's Xander Diamond was coming through. Left back we'd signed Jamie McAllister as well, and then obviously it was myself in the middle. There was Chris Clark, wide. There was Dan Mackey, Robbie we'd signed kind of Robbie, Derek White as well was obviously playing, and then my brother and Daz Mackey up top and stuff. So it was, you had that a right good nucleus of players. I think if we'd managed to kind of keep that together for a couple of seasons and then add kind of more quality or better kind of players, because I'm pretty sure looking back now and being a manager now, they'd have had us for on buttons compared to what they could have. Obviously, if they maybe, I don't know, maybe they could have spent and got a couple of more like high quality players that could have played with us and helped us and guided us as such. But again, it was a great time, and I mean that was 8 years I was there and I absolutely loved it. So. But I do think that we could have. The season I came back from my injury, we'd got to the 2 cup finals, and one was when Robbie Winters ended up going in after about a minute. He ended up going in goals. And I remember coming back and thinking, to the gaffer, I'm feeling good. I mean, I never played any games that season, but you were just kind of gutted because you felt like, right, I'm back now and I've maybe got a wee opportunity. And it was just kind of like, no, it's too early. We're just going to leave you, make sure you're okay for next season. But no, it was a great bunch of boys, and it's probably one of the things I say. I mean, some of the guys did go on and do well in their own right, but I think as a team, then we could have, should have done better.
2003, mate, your time at Aberdeen came to an end. You ended up moving on to Dunfermline. I'm assuming that must have been a very emotional time.
Me and my brother had agreed a deal to go to Dunfermline, and as again, there was a number of reasons. At the time, I mean, we were in the Aberdeen, hadn't been great. I think it was Stevie Patterson that came in at the time, and things hadn't been looking too good. At the same time with Dunfermline, it was Dunfermline had finished above Aberdeen the last kind of 2-3 seasons in a row. Jimmy Caldwell had come in and had spoken to us. We were both getting 3-year deals. Again, Aberdeen were kind of offering a massive cut, just down to the fact that I mean, it was the Bank of Scotland and stuff. There was it was like Dundee, Hamilton, or Motherwell, or somebody had all kind of went kind of bankrupt type of thing, or that type of thing was kind of happening. So they were kind of calling it in, and Aberdeen had to basically everyone had to kind of take massive cuts. So there was a bit of that, and there was also my dad wasn't great as well. He had been diagnosed with cancer and stuff. So it was a bit of everything, to be honest. So me and Derek felt we're getting a much better deal. We're getting a 3-year deal, a bit of security. Dunfermline have finished ahead of Aberdeen 3 seasons in a row. So it was kind of a no-brainer. We're back home. We're back close to family, and with the stuff that's happening in the background. So it was a big decision. And I always remember in the car park as well, the usual. You're sitting there and you're just kind of like, you've been going here since you were 10-year-old. Now you're going, whatever it was, 23 or something, 22, 23, and you're leaving. So you're having a wee bubble in a car, and then that was it. But no, I mean, I love my time there. And again, yeah, I would have loved to have stayed, but things change, and that's kind of life. And going to Dunfermline, again, for me personally, it would end up not being a bad move. I was there for 5 years, and I'd got to like 4 cup finals, and at the same time going to Europe twice, and with Dunfermline's highest ever finish in the league. So there was a lot of positives to kind of take on making that move when you look back on it.
You mentioned them earlier on just a wee bit, but how was Jimmy Calderwood with you and your brother? Obviously, we know that he's sadly passed away now, but
Yeah.
just his managerial approach, how was he when you used to?
Yeah, I mean, he was one of the best kind of managers for me, and again, he was the 2 Jimmys, as they say, but the 2 of them are brilliant. Again, everything was high tempo, high work rate. The drills and everything was good. It was, again, that first season for me was probably one of my best seasons. We finished 3rd in the league. We finished got the Scottish Cup final, we go on to Europe, so it was amazing, and again it was a good bunch of boys, good team, and to have done so well. And again, the only thing for me was it was only a year he was there, because he then went up to Aberdeen. I think something daft like they'd finished. I think Aberdeen had finished like 11th in the league, and we'd finished 3rd in the league, and then it was kind of nearly roles reversed. I think we finished 9th, he went back up to Aberdeen, and they finished 3rd or 4th. But no, he was a good manager, he was a good motivator, and good at the job, as it can be seen by the number of clubs he helped and he done well with.
You mentioned 4 cup finals there, man. That must be some sort of record where, you know, I mean, how do you look back on all these finals, mate? I mean, obviously you were up against guys like Larson and stuff like that, you know, and to get to the final was just absolutely incredible itself 4 times.
Yeah, no, it was amazing. It was the first one was the Scottish Cup final was against Larson. We're 1-0 up, and again it was just think we've got a chance here. And then they got the corner coming in, and the ball got punched away. Big Baldy punched the ball away, and then after that they counter attacked. Beat defender Aaron LeBont slipped, and then they scored, and then it was kind of waves the attack, and we get beat 3-1. But no, that was about 55-60 minutes. And if the referee, again, if you get VAR and all that, if the ref sees it now, it's a penalty, it's a handball, he's sent off, and it should be a penalty. You're winning 2-0 against 10 men. So not saying you would have went on and won it, but you had a hell of a good chance to do it. And then the second one we got to the final, it was League Cup final, and again it was Celtic again. And in the semi-final, we're playing Livy, and it was at Hibs, Easter Road, and it was a penalty, and I'd scored the penalty. And again, fired it down the middle, 1-0 we won, brilliant into the final, and then I broke my metatarsal and actually missed the final, so I was absolutely gutted. And I remember right up to the day before it, I'd been kind of training, doing non-weight bearing training, and then I got to kind of actually train. And again, 20 minutes into the training session, I'm like, I'm fine here, because the doctor at the time says it was good news and bad news. The good news is you've got a chance of making the final. The bad news is you've broken your metatarsal. So if I got it pinned, I'd have missed it, or if I'd left it and try and let it heal itself. So I kind of left it right to the last minute, and then just in the middle of training, nobody near me, and just cracked again. You actually heard it and just went down, collapsed, and that was me way back in the shower, feeling sorry for myself. And then again, we managed to get to the Scottish Cup final. In the season we'd been kind of relegated, we got to the Challenge Cup final. So the second Scottish Cup final was, again, we were 7 minutes away. It was 0-0 with Celtic. It was Pierre Dunby, it scored the toe poke, and again it was, you're so close to getting that blooming the winners medal, but again it wasn't to be. And I managed to get Big Sol Bamba was playing in that game as well, and then managed to get the kind of man of the match in that one, which again is something you look back on and you're kind of, it's good to have that, but again you prefer to have the kind of winners medal, but it's something that you can show the wee man and say like your daddy playing the Scottish Cup final, blah blah blah. But no, it's again that was a close one as well, because we had a few opportunities and Celtic weren't at their strongest then, but again it was another defeat, so it was a pain in the ass. And then to top it off, we played Dundee in the Challenge Cup final, we get beat 3-2 there. So it's a pretty decent record in semi-finals, but cup finals.
I was going to say, getting the man of the match, especially by the season you had, getting relegated, and obviously the fans, imagine being so, like the morale being so low, and you're still going out there and performing against one of the biggest teams in Scotland. That's still quite an achievement.
Yeah, it's great. It's great to have it, but it's, again, you just wished it was the winners' medal, and you get something to kind of to celebrate. But no, again, some people might say it's an achievement in itself for Dunfermline and how we did that season to actually get there. But it's just one of those things. You never really remember the losers, do you? You all remember the winners.
Well, I'm a Celtic fan, mate. I was in the pub that day, man, and I remember that game really well, because I remember you were fantastic that day, and I know it's little consolation now looking back in it, mate. You didn't win the game, but you were brilliant that day up against Celtic. You know what I mean? It was just a shame somebody's got to lose, isn't it? But you know that wee bit of quality unfortunately goes in the end. But
yeah,
I wouldn't say quality with that goal.
I know
that was horrendous. I don't think he knew that he actually touched it.
It was a terrible goal.
That was terrible. But anyway, debut with Dundee. What happened there?
It was, I could basically get on. It was boys in the halfway line, and as he went basically balls over the top. So I've just kind of thought, I'll take one for the team here. on the halfway line, just kind of put the arm out and that, block him, fine. And the referees ran up and gave me a red, and there were two covering defenders, and that was me. It took about 3 months to make my debut just because I'd been injured, and then make my debut, and after about 3 minutes or something I get sent off, so that was a disaster. But I kept my whole time at Dundee was a bit of a nightmare, to be honest. I just kept on getting reoccurring problems with my calves, and again I couldn't get to the bottom of it. And it was, again, it's one of those ones where when I was a couple of years later after that, you're kind of at the position where, do you know what, see if I can get over this, then I'm kind of done, and that's me having to kind of retire, because I just kind of continually getting this same problem, and it was stopping me from getting the fitness and match sharpness, and couldn't get down to the bottom of it.
You had a couple of wee spells after that, mate, at Queen of the South, Green up Morton. How do you remember your time at the two clubs? Very, very small at Queen of the South. But
the Queen of the South was just basically a bounce game, or a friendly game I was playing, and I remember getting into it in the warm-up and it was feeling a bit tight, and then just as the game started, so after about 5 minutes, I just kind of felt my calf, and then that was me. Because I'd been in training for the week, as you do, you get to that point, you're kind of having a look about and seeing who'll take you, and then calf just kind of wasn't happening, so then I had to go and get treatment, and after that, ended up going to get a physio to help me out, went to Morton, and again, Morton was the same, just as I'd signed and agreed to sign to the Christmas, and then blooming broke down, start again there, and then I'd get back into the team. I was doing okay, and then I remember signing the contract, and as I signed the contract the next day again, I just felt my calf again, and it was, I guess, just one of these things that you're just couldn't get to the bottom of, and then from there, after that was just as I was about to go to kind of part-time, but again it was to the position and situation where you're sitting there saying, right, all I know is football, I've done this football the whole time, I've not looked elsewhere, and in regards to other jobs and stuff like that, and the usual, do I go and do coaching? And then off the back of that, it was Paul Hartley phoned me to say about going to Alloa, and he was going, obviously that was his first manager job, and I'd managed to kind of go there, and I was going to start the coaching as well, so he helped me kind of with that side of things. So I got into the kind of coaching side, and then that was me going part-time, and by going part-time it was kind of less stress on the body, should we say, and I was only also training Tuesday night and Thursday night, but even at the start I was still, a Tuesday night would be kind of with the physio doing some stuff to kind of strengthen it up as such, and then trained on the Thursday, but I managed to get kind of 3 good years there.
At your time at Alloa, you won the third division title. How was that, winning your first trophy professionally?
Yeah, it was brilliant. Paul had obviously made me captain, so basically the 3 years we were there, it was 3 brilliant years, because we won the third division, sorry. Then we won the next season. It was kind of, I can't remember if it was still League One, or it was League Two, League One, or League Three, League Two, or whatever. But we then get promoted in the playoffs. So we got to the playoffs, got promoted in the playoffs, beat Dunfermline, relegated them, and we went up to the championship. And then in the championship, my last season, we managed to stay there, and it was literally the last kick of the ball. So we had, it was funny, because my brothers were Queen of the South at the time, and Queen of the South were playing Cowdenbeath, and we were in a position where if we'd won, maybe we'd been okay, and then somebody was saying, oh, we came off, we get beat with Falkirk, we came off, everyone's, Barry Smith's having a team talk saying, right guys, we're in on Tuesday, we have, obviously we've got the playoffs and blah blah blah, and then Alex Smith had come in, because he was at Falkirk at the time, so he's like, well done guys, well done, and we're like, well done, we're in the playoffs, if we won all that, we'd have been okay. And then one of the boys come in and says, by the way, Queen of the South have just scored. We're like, what? So because Queen of the South has scored last minute against Cowdenbeath, they kind of knocked Cowdenbeath into the playoffs. My brother was there, and somebody goes, it was your brother, Derek, had scored. So next minute, the whole place is erupting. So we have honestly gone out in the space of 30 seconds for, shit, we've got the playoffs, to, right, what time's the flight to go to Magaluf for the weekend? That's where away Friday started Sunday, and it was just, that's how quickly it kind of changed. And again, staying up was an achievement in itself, because we're a part-time team, and etc. etc. So it was brilliant to kind of finish that way. And then Barry took me in to say, oh, thanks but no thanks, and at the same time it worked out quite well for me, because Albion Rovers were kind of looking for a manager, and I started there as player manager.
My local team. Won the wee Rovers.
At what point did you decide, you know what, I fancy this, I fancy getting into management and getting that wee crack?
I think it's just again one of those things. You think of it as a natural progression, and I think because I was going as a player kind of manager, I spoke to Sandy Clark, and Sandy Clark was obviously experienced. He's been there and done it. I haven't really kind of coached as such, even though mentally you kind of feel, right, I'm ready for this. I wasn't. And Sandy did all the training. I still took part in it, and then obviously just kind of learnt as I went. And to be fair, it's not embarrassed to kind of say that. He did kind of most of the team talks. I remember one team talk, and it was like I call it a pokey pig moment. And I'm doing the team, and I've got the board up behind me, and it's the usual. It's quite nerve wracking because you get 11 guys on one side, and they're all they're buzzing because they're playing, and you get another 11 on the other side, and they're all sitting like, he's a prick. He's I think I'm still playing with him as well, and a couple of them took their place as well. So doing a team talk, I couldn't get it out what I was trying to say, and I'm like, and one of the boys like, that's it, Gaffer. And the whole place erupted, and I think it was the best performance of the season. We won 4-1. I spoke to Sandy after it, and Sandy's like, Zach, I've made an arse of that. I don't know. He says, nah, they say you've done brilliant. I goes, how? And he says, well, you've made an arse yet. You've got a wee 30 seconds, you've had a joke and a laugh, you've got back into it, you spoke about what you wanted to do, and then that was it. He says, Sandy's like, I've been with guys who have just couldn't do, obviously, the standing up and the team talk thing and stuff, because I would do it, and then Sandy would maybe say his wee bit. And again, to have somebody Sandy's experience, that was kind of a big thing for me to be going there. And then obviously that season we go on and we managed to kind of win the league.
I'm doing a wee thing on my YouTube, Darren, and I'm trying to speak to like a fan at every different club that that wants to come on and have a chat about it. And a few months ago, I spoke to an Albion Rovers fan, Connor, his name is, and he spoke so highly of the club, and obviously all their passion and stuff. How did you find your time at Albion Rovers?
I mean, look, I loved it. It was obviously it was hard going at times with stuff, and again it was. It never ended great either. It was one of those ones, but we did brilliant. For me, the wee boy did all the stats and everything. Had said I'd been the most successful manager in the 142 years or something. Obviously, we'd won the league and then we stayed up 2 years in a row. So there's no other manager kind of done that, according to him. But again, so for me, I felt we did brilliant. Obviously, money side of things and budget wise, it wasn't great. We kind of had to work with what we had. But again, the second season we missed out in the playoffs down to the very last game of the season, and I remember it was brilliant. We were playing Steny away. I think we beat them 4-1, and it was between us, Stranraer and Airdrie. And I think Stranraer were a point ahead. Airdrie were on the same points as us, but were like maybe 2 goals better off. And it was one of those ones. People get the phone and all that. It's like, we need another goal, and they hadn't scored or they had scored, and just things like that. It was brilliant, just right down to the last kick of the ball. And even the next season again, because we'd had the lowest budget in the league by a mile. And then on the second season, right up to the second last game of the season, we were still kind of challenging for the playoffs. But again, the way that went was we'd spoken about stuff and they were offering, it was like 40% cut in the budget, 60% cut for me. And I'm like, I says, look, we're already get the lowest budget in the league. I says it's a kind of relegation budget as such, and then they're like, oh, well, we don't think so. And I'm like, well, that's fine. I says, but it is what it is. So I said, right, we'll get kind of back to you. We'll speak about a few things, and then total randomly, somebody made an arsey, and then they sent out a letter to. At this point, I had Billy Stark as my assistant because Sandy had moved on. Again, another guy who's been there and done it in Scottish football. So Billy gets a letter through the door. Lindsay Hamilton, again, who's been there and done it. Lindsay gets a letter through his door, and Tony, myself, the physio, thanks for your thingy. Your services are no longer required for next season. So straight away, I've phoned the guy up, and I'm like, what's happening here? It's like, that shouldn't happen. I'm like, right, we're in a position where we could still be relegated in the playoffs, or we're in a position where we could actually still be promoted in the playoffs. I says, and you've kind of, that should never have happened. I says, well, it has. I says, so it's totally unprofessional. I says, I'm getting my Billy Stark, who's been in Scottish football for about 40 years. He's phoning me asking me why his services, obviously he was joking, but he says, he's asking me why the services are no longer required. I says, you've not spoke to me. The directors have not spoke to me. I says, and there's a letter at my door. So again, very unprofessional to go about it that way, because for me, done nothing but obviously help the club and get the club to a really good position after the kind of years they'd kind of had. And again, even the game we had against Celtic, I remember that the Celtic game in Finances again weren't great. The Celtic game, we played Queen of the South, and it was a replay. So the game got called off on the Saturday. That was a big hoo-ha because we'd lost the sort of Saturday gate as such, because it's a weekend gate. It's going to be a midweek game. The crowd wasn't as big. So then after that, we'd got the draw. The draw comes up, Celtic at home. So you're like, oh, come on, we need to get through this. So I kind of knew the figures and that involved. And so we're playing, obviously, Queens, again, a bit of doing. We get the goal, we're 1-0 up, so we're holding on. Then we get to one each, and then me, Ryan Wallace, gets sent off. We're like, oh, shit, let's get this over the line. Let's get a replay back down there. And then we played, there's about a minute to go, and I'm at the line saying, come on, man, get this, blow a whistle and that. And he's like, look, Dan, there's still a minute to go. And he's in the sideline right next to his showing us his watch. So the ball goes up, and I think big Ross Stewart flicks it on. And then I think it was Ross Gilmore. Ross Gilmore runs through, and then he flicks it through. I think it was Paul Willis. He has a strike, and then it falls to wee Cal, and fires it in, gets the So anyway, the three subs have come on. He's flicked on. He's passed it. He's had the shot, and he's tapped it in. So the fans are on the park. The players are in the stand. We're in the middle of the 18-yard box. We're all going mental. That's it, full time, and then we obviously get the game. But that made the club 170, 180 grand, and that kind of helped finance-wise and kind of kept them kind of going. And then obviously by the end of it, you get the big, you get the letter through the door. So it was a bit baffling, but it is what it is for that side of things. But no, I really enjoyed my time there, and it was good for me being at that side of things and seeing how kind of things can operate for obviously from where I am now.
What did you see as the biggest differences from being a leader on the pitch to being a leader off it?
Good question. I think the transition at first was quite hard for me because I was still playing, and I'm getting the ball away in the park at times or making an asset, and then 2 minutes later, because I'm the manager at the time, you're kind of feel like you're then having to have a go at the players. So it was just, I said that to Sandy, she's like, just you worry about obviously your own game, and then I'll deal with stuff at the side. Because we spoke to each other if something happens or if you need to tweak your formation. Then at half time, you'd again, right, this is the subs we look to put on, if he, etc. So we're always in communication, and it was hard. I spoke to her about that and just saying, like, I'm kind of finding it difficult to be in there and having a go at so and so because I've gave the ball away. But at the same time, I'm then kicking out the park or something daft like that. But then when you become the manager, obviously the guys all kind of look up to you and kind of what you say go. Again, I speak to quite a lot of boys individually, and again, you've got the bits where you're kind of doing your stuff with the players on the training ground as well. So it's just getting everybody to kind of know their jobs, and as long as they kind of know their jobs, there can't really be any kind of comebacks to say I never knew this or I never knew that. So it's just kind of getting that message across from that side of things. And again, if just be open for players to be able to come and speak to you, be approachable, and I think I am. If I still get kind of players speaking to me now and giving me calls and asking me what do I think about certain situations and stuff like that. So I think I am somebody that they can kind of come and speak to, even if they've kind of left the club or not at the club I'm kind of with.
Oh, so you're at Clyde at the moment, mate. You had a couple of spells at still in Albion, East Fife. How did you find your time at both of the clubs, and was it good just gaining that experience?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the East Fife was really good, and again, it was another situation. We were in League One, and again, luckily enough, got the job once the Albion Rovers game had came away. But again, it was a good club, well-run club, and again, maybe the fans don't kind of realise, but at the time with the budgets and stuff, we were probably League One, and I would honestly say hand in heart punching above our weight every season. We had a couple of decent cup runs, again beat a few full-time teams. Most of the seasons that I was there, we were kind of challenging for the playoffs, and then the kind of last season before I kind of get the bump was we got it was kind of goal difference, the kind of last game kind of goal difference knocked us out. Now for those kind of seasons, we were still probably bottom budget wise again, probably similar to you're kind of looking at Albion Rovers and saying, right, well, we've done well here, we're challenging for the playoffs, going up the way in the right direction. And after that, and that was 4.5 seasons I was there, so we kind of had the same budget for that kind of time. So it got to the point where Queen's Park are no longer Queen's Park. They were one of the amateur team, they were the full-time team. You get teams like Cove with all sorts of budgets. You're playing against maybe 4 full-time teams in League One. So every season it was getting harder and harder from our side of things. And obviously the big thing is recruitment, and it obviously helps if you've got a wee bit extra to go and try and get guys over the line, and instead you're kind of fighting and hassling over £20 a week or £10 a week with some players, and just honestly it's just one of those things at part-time level. And Sandy and the guys have always kind of said to us, one of the main things is your recruitment, if you can kind of get your recruitment right. And I think the majority of the time we managed to kind of do that. I mean, there's quite a few young boys who managed to kind of bring through. Big Ross Stewart, again, we got him from, I think it was Kilsyth Rangers, did very well, obviously, at Albion Rovers, and gets his move. And obviously he moved for 10 million there, and he called up for Scotland. And there's another one, big boy Anton Dowds, another one who'd done really, really well. Got him from, I think it was Heriot Watt or Edinburgh Uni. Again, another boy who's come in and did well, went full time. There's wee Josh Mullen as well. He came for juniors and again got his opportunity to go full time. So there's been quite a few that they're kind of like, it's good that you gave them the platform, and it's down to them to go and kind of take it. And guys with kind of good attitudes. But no, it doesn't get any kind of easier. The Stirling one was brilliant. Obviously, we won the league, which was, from that point of view, was amazing, because I'd kind of have a wee joke and laugh. I'd obviously won League Two as a player, a captain with Alloa. I won it as a player manager with Albion Rovers, and you win it as a kind of proper manager with Stirling. So it was great to go and achieve that. And again, it's something Stirling had been kind of in League One for, I don't know, was it so many years, 10, 20 years or something, or they hadn't won the league in 20 years or something like that. So it was great to kind of do that for the club and for the fans. For that side of things, and again, they're a great bunch of boys, great team spirit. I remember at the end of the season we ended up going to Portugal. Portugal was brilliant. There was about, I think it was about 24 or 25, and that's kind of unusual, because you sometimes get a lot of guys not going, but everybody, the coaching staff, were all there, and most of the players, I think apart from maybe one or two, had kids on the way or something, so they weren't allowed. But no, it was a great experience. And again, even getting up to the last season with Stirling as well was frustrating, because we started off really well. We managed to win in the League Cup section. We managed to qualify in that for the first time ever. We beat St Johnstone 4-0 away from home. And I remember as well that going into that season is we'd gone like 19 games unbeaten in the league for December to the end of the season. I think we're 11 months unbeaten at home. So it was we kind of records that, again, maybe don't mean too much, but at the same time it kind of shows you how well we did when we were there, and how hard we competed. And again, that was another one that went down to goal difference in the last game of the season, and then we knocked us into the playoffs. So we hadn't been the kind of ninth all season. And in the last game of the season we drew one each with Annan. If we'd beaten Annan, we'd have stayed in the league. But the other thing was, I think if we'd got one more goal, we'd have finished 7th in the league, got into the playoffs, and then obviously a bit of lottery, we get beat off Dumbarton. And again, it's one of those things we end up getting relegated, which is disappointing, and then you get the kind of bump. So you kind of got to take it in your shoulders. At the same time, it wasn't. You look at it and you look at stats and data, people kind of look at that and you say it wasn't that bad a season. You've been relegated, fair enough, but I think, again, having the 4 full-time teams league, we were the third best for attacking stats, for like crosses and number of shots on target, number of shots. And again, it's not all about that, but the thing for me was, I'm sitting there saying, right, obviously defensively we could have done better because the goals against wasn't great, but I think attacking wise, if you had maybe that wee bit more quality, or you kind of took more of the chances, kind of felt we're doing the right thing in that way going forward. But obviously it's about kind of getting results, and it is what it is. I love my time there, enjoyed it, and I'm delighted to be able to kind of bring the league title to them, because again, it's something that they'd missed out on for 20-30 years or so.
I've got a question, mate, and I've been thinking about this, and I want to make sure I word it correctly here. First of all, I want to say that I mean no disrespect to any of your players or any players you've managed previously, right? But how was it like? Obviously, most of your career was played at a high level. How did you find, dealing with players who, weren't at the level that you were, and the players that were surrounded you were surrounded by as well? Was it frustrating at times? Maybe I would always imagine it'd be frustrating for a manager, for a player not to be able to do the things that you could do, or like that players around you could do.
No, I think it's also frustrating because there's certain things and drills you're doing and it maybe breaks down or you're in positions, but no, I think it's obviously they're all obviously the coach and the managers to try and improve them to better them. So it's maybe frustrating that they're kind of if it's that way. If you've inherited a bunch of players or a squad, then you're obviously you try and get the best out of them. But there'll obviously be a point or a turn where like these guys then they're not getting in the team and they're not playing and they're maybe chapping your door, and then it gets to the point where you're like, right, he isn't maybe that good enough, but at the same time you're obviously speaking to them, you're having the conversation, or they're coming to you, why am I on the team? You're being honest and telling them, and then off the back of that, they would just kind of move them on and you get other guys in. So it's trying to get the best out of the guys, that are there and are playing for you. And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But it's it's kind of down to us to do that. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It can be frustrating, but at the same time, it's kind of what you're working with. So you're at a different level, and you just need to try and improve these guys and better these guys as best you can. And then again, do you get the results and the performances off the back of it? Can you help them and can you get them back up to the level? There's guys that you kind of played with or coached that I still feel that there's one or two guys that they should be doing better than what they're doing, or previously I've coached in that. You're thinking, come on, if you can just kind of work a wee bit harder or do a wee bit more away for training, then you might actually get there. And it's because I still feel there's guys in our team as well. There's guys still in who I felt should have maybe kicked on. So it's one of those ones where can they go and do that? Can you help them to improve? And if not, it's as much as you're frustrated. You're frustrated because you may see ability in a player. And I remember an example. So we Josh Mullen, it was the Albion Rovers, and Sandy's. If you've met Sandy before, Sandy's very black and white, so he'll just tell you how it is. So we Josh is putting the crosses in. He's like, I mean, Gaffer, I don't think Sandy likes me. I says, Josh, he does. He goes, but he keeps on shouting, he keeps on moaning. I says, well, do you know why that is? He's like, how? I goes, because he believes in you, he knows that you can do better. I goes, see when Sandy stops shouting at you, that's when you start to worry. I goes, because then he's not caring because he sees that you're not caring. He says, but he knows you can do better. I know you can do better. So it's like wee conversations like that. The guys are like, oh, why are they shouting at me? Because we know you can do better and we know you can improve. And again, Josh is one that kind of kicked on and took his opportunity, and then he's been full time for the past 9-10 years now.
We spoke to Dougie Emery about that the other week about how some players you can shout it and you get the best out of that way, but obviously, as you'll know, Dan, obviously there's some players you will need to put your arm around and get the best out of them.
Yeah, that's just the norm now. There's no too many that you can have a wee blast at or a wee go at. Obviously, it's the right time, the right place, but I think most of them now prefer to be kind of pulled aside or shown. Again, you maybe do it on the iPhone or whatever it is, it's the iPad, or you maybe sit down, you can do a wee bit of video analysis. But again, there's some boys will react better to being shown and spoken to privately rather than outed in front of the team. But then there's other times when guys kind of need that as well, or the team needs that to be kind of shown certain things. Like we keep losing a certain goal, or we're straight at set pieces, or whatever it may be. So then it's a collective thing, so you can kind of show that so that everybody knows, right, if we're in this position again, this doesn't happen. Or if we are in attacking or we're whatever, this is what we're looking for. So I think there's a time and a place, but again, individually, there's guys that maybe need a wee cuddle.
Like you've mentioned now, you're currently the Clyde manager and you're going to get your first game of the season against Motherwell.
Yeah.
How do you think you'll fare in that game?
Again, hopefully catch them off guard. Again, they're a full-time team. They're going to have good players, but it's one of those things. The League Cup section, I've quite enjoyed it in the games that I've kind of played and we've coached in. So it's one of those. If we can go and kind of play the way we have in some of the pre-season games, we're shaping that's been pretty decent. We were playing midweek there, and we had about 3 or 4 boys missing. So these boys should be kind of back now. We'll still get 1 or 2 on holiday, which isn't ideal, but it's just one of these things at kind of part-time level. Every single club's in the exact same position, so you kind of need to deal with that. Ideally, if you want to know players to be kind of ready. But most of the guys have taken part in most of the pre-season, but it's just when the games come round, you're wanting everybody to be ready to be picked from. But no, we're looking forward to it. Again, we did our last session last night, and again, it's a couple of boys are back for their niggles and their injuries, so hopefully we can kind of cause a wee upset.
For everybody watching and listening, Darren's Clyde are playing Motherwell tomorrow, so this is the night before. Darren, without getting away your team talk, mate, how is it you're going to try and how do you try and give the players belief that they can go and beat Motherwell tomorrow?
I think they have the belief themselves. A lot of their guys have kind of played a good level. Some of them have played Championship, some of them have played in the Prem. So again, it's 11v11, so anything can kind of happen, and it's just one of those ones you could get a wee bit of luck on the day. But at the same time, I just feel if we can go and play the way we can, and the work rate and the tempo and the way we've kind of performed at the end of last season, and also in the games that we've played, then I don't see any reason why we can't go and do that. And again, they've only played a couple of games too, and again, hopefully, who knows? So hopefully if we can catch them cold, then you never know. But again, we're kind of going to every game with a game plan and saying, right, this is how we feel we can kind of get at them, and then off the back of that, during the game, if you need to kind of change, then we can kind of change. And again, it's something we spoke about last night, so we'll kind of see how things go, and hopefully we can start well and maybe cause them a few problems.
As you say, mate, it's a fresh start. Big game tomorrow. What's your hopes for the season ahead? What's your targets?
I think the target's just to be up there challenging, to be honest. It's for me, it's probably looking like one of the most competitive League Twos that I've been kind of involved in anyway. There's nobody you're kind of sitting there saying, right, they may be a wee bit weaker. Everybody seems to have good players, strong players. Every team now seems to have 2 or 3 guys that can make a difference, whether it's they go and beat 2 or 3 players and get the shot or the strike away, or creativity-wise, are that wee bit quicker or sharper. So it's one of those ones. Yeah, every team's kind of different shapes, styles, formations, whatever the way that they play. But if we can kind of stick to the way we kind of performed and how we're wanting to play, and again, the boys are adaptable. They know themselves. If you're all out, it's not saying all out attack, but if you're attacking, then this is what we're expecting of you. If it breaks down defensively, they know their shape and they know how to kind of get back in. So it's something that we're kind of looking forward to. And again, I think it's one of these leagues. It's going to be right to the very end. It was similar to last season as well. Obviously, the second last game of the season, it ended up just being between East Fife and Peterhead, and obviously Peterhead went up and then East Fife went up in the playoffs. So we actually felt we did very well. We did do well. We beat Peterhead 6-1 in the last game of the season, but they made 7 or 8 changes, but it's just one of those things. We've kind of shown during the season when we played them, we kind of coped well and we did well. So I think any team, whether it's top or bottom, can kind of beat each other, and it's on the day. Can you get that wee bit of consistency? Can you kind of go on the run? And kind of first and foremost, can you be hard to beat? And so I think our position now, if we can kind of concede less goals than we did and cut out the silly mistakes for last year, then I think we've got players that can go and cause team problems and create chances.
Brilliant, mate. Darren, at the end of every show now, we like to get a couple of stats in front of me here, mate. I just want to say that's been a brilliant interview. Your career's been fantastic.
Brilliant.
Wish you all the best for the future with Clyde and that. But I've just got a couple of stats in front of me here. I'm just wondering how much you knew about your career and who is the 3 players you've picked the most.
Oh, who's the 3 players I've picked the most?
Aye, man.
Where do you find these stats?
Their own transfer market.
Is it Ross Davidson?
Yep, he's number 1.
Who's the other one? Aaron Dunsmuir?
Yep, mate, he's 3rd.
I'm just waiting on him saying someday, and after that, so they're watching it like, no, you should have picked me more, but see, now you're liking it.
I got on now. What position does he play?
He is a centre back.
Oh, Ross Dunlop.
Yes, mate. 3 out of 3. Well done, man.
That was kind of the 3 of them were at, obviously, Albion Rovers, and Dundee wasn't at Albion Rovers, but he was at Stirling and he was at thingy. Geez, I never knew that.
Who's the manager that you've managed against the most as a manager?
Stevie Farrell.
Aye, mate, aye. You can go transfer market.
There you go. So
Right.
I don't. So would you say that's the transfer market? That is.
Transfer market, mate. Aye.
I don't know that.
But it does show the people that you've played with the most. It does show you that.
I wrote that down today, man. But anyway, Corey, don't give secrets away. No, I'm going to get it.
We played in the first game of the season. Stevie Farrell of Dumbarton.
Oh, these?
Oh, is it? There you go. There's another one. That'll be 23 then, mate. It's currently 22. Last question before we let you go, mate, is 5-a-side team out of the players you've played with, who are you picking?
Goalie, I'll go Derek Stilley. Up front, I'll have Ian Jess. Derek. Need to bring Derek in there, just sentimental. Defender, probably big Russell Anderson, maybe. And then one more. Striker wise, strikers. I don't know, probably still like maybe Stevie Crawford or something like that.
Aye, brilliant.
Right, mate. Thank you very much. Like I said earlier, man, really do appreciate your time, Darren. Best of luck tomorrow in particular. Hopefully you go and do it, man. And hopefully you can get yourself up this season as well, mate. And thanks very much for your time, mate, and all the best.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for that.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.